Hello, folks. Thank you for joining, being on time. Other people might join us throughout the next 45 minutes, half hour to 45 minutes. So what today is not going to be a slow process for you to fill in and answer a lot of the questions that I will be going over on the different models that I'll be talking about. Rather, it's an opportunity to learn, listen, and it is being recorded. So I'm going to post it on my YouTube page. And if you miss anything or want to watch it again while you fill out the working document in the future, that is kind of the goal for me to run through the different components of it. And at the end, I can answer any questions from anyone if there are any questions. And what I've created over the years, and this is just one of the final renditions of it, is a really, really simple business plan. I have always done really well from business planning and from viewing it as a working document that I work on all year long versus something that perhaps people look at in December and put a lot of effort into and then forget about. So that's the goal today. It's called a business plan, but again, it's more of a working plan. All right, so welcome to Business Planning 101. The workbook is intended to help you navigate the process forward. We did email you the workbook. Tamara will throw it once or twice more into the chat if you don't have it downloaded. The slides that you're going to look at, they're pretty small, so a lot of the details you won't see on the PowerPoint slide, but in the workbook, it's normal size and it will make sense there. So the big thing is when you dedicate the time to work on your business, the goals you set are more easily achieved. And so that comes from, really putting time aside to work on your business beyond the business planning time. And that's key. One of the biggest successes for myself has been from dedicating time to work on the business versus always being in the business and selectively having moments of business planning. And the biggest way you do that is first step has to be time blocking. And so what I'd like you to do here is kind of figure out when in your business could you dedicate an hour per week to work on your business goals after you create them. Dedicating that time will make those goals truly achievable. And so use this workbook as a roadmap to design your business and focus on your big why. And right now, kind of figure out when in your week would you be able, what day of the week would you be able to set time aside? And when is that time slot? An example could be if you are consistent, you could, and didn't have to drive kids to school or anything, you could consistently set aside maybe Friday at 8 a.m. for half an hour to an hour to pull out your business plan and really spend some time thinking about your business, working on what is, filling out the details and progressing on your working business plan versus not doing it. So when is this time? Can you put in your calendar right now? And are you able to commit to not having distractions during that time? So not looking at your emails, not looking at your phone, not responding to texts or messages. What I'm going to cover in today's session is, again, I'm going to talk about recapping your previous year when you're working on a business plan, talking about where your business comes from, what is your vision, what are your goals for the upcoming year, how are you committed to those, what are your production goals, where did the business come from, talk about a tool that's called a 90-day habit tracker, talk about what schedule management looks like, what your daily schedule looks like, what your weekly schedule can look like. We'll talk a little bit about budgets in a really, really simple format. Talk about a growth plan tool, a 3-2-1 tool, and a 1-3-5 tool. And then something, I don't know if you've done it yourself, but I do it every year. I write myself a letter that in theory I would be opening, at the end of 2024. And the answer to everything is as if someone met you on the street and asked you, how did your year go? And you say it was a 9 out of 10, and you are describing why it was a 9 out of 10 and all the different areas that are important to your world. So most important, whenever you're ready to kind of refocus and relaunch your next year or relaunch your business, you have to understand where you're coming from. So classically with business planning, we do it at the end of the year, but you could do it at any point within the year where you want to refocus, relaunch. And the biggest thing you need to do is understand the past. So in the case here that we're talking about realtors, but this business plan, this concept, this teaching could apply to any type of entrepreneur. And questions you need to answer yourself are, what was in the past year the total income received? What were your business expenses? How many deals did you close? How many appointments and listings and did you have to go on in order to reach those targets? how many listings sold, how many buyer ends, what was your average price, what was your average commission check, how many hours a week did you work, how many pendings do you have that are closing in the months ahead of you, what's the inventory you're bringing into the new year, how many days did you work, how many hours did you prospect, and how many people are in your database. The reason recapping the past is really important is to really understand where you're starting from. It also helps you to compare to your peers. With this information, you can have real business conversations with other realtors in your marketplace, with other peer partners or other business partners in similar, industry. And you can figure out, oh my gosh, how does another person get much more results out of a smaller database? Or how does someone, get a much higher commission price? And what you'll discover is you don't need to improve every one of these categories in order to have a really strong growth year. If you just, improve on a few of them, increase a few of them, you will have a great upcoming year. And so that's why recapping the past is really important for in the future when we talk about the business plan going forward. It's important to know where you're coming from so you can figure out, what are you going to increase for your goals in the year ahead. Many of you probably haven't filled these out. A lot of the coaching I do with realtors, even folks that are doing ongoing coaching, have not figured out all these items consistently. And if you're, a busy realtor, a business entrepreneur that is working in their business constantly, many of these questions you won't know the answer to. So if you do, amazing, congratulations to you. You're certainly in the top percentile. And if you don't, this is a great starting point. Find that time in the schedule where you're going to work on your business, or that we just talked about, where you're going to protect that time to work on your business plan or on your business. And answering these questions might be the first step that you need to accomplish in order to really draft a business plan that's worth drafting, that's worth working on all year forward. So your business came from somewhere in the past. If you did do business in the last year, where did it come from? We'll talk a little bit more about what the perfect business looks like. There is also a class that I teach. It's called 99 Plus Lead Gen Engines. This comes from it. You can find that on my Roland Kym Realtor YouTube channel. And, you can watch that. It tells you a bit more about how you can build a business from just 4 engines. But the concept here is write down every transaction you had in the past year and write down the source. Where did it come from? Because what we will discover is, when you write it down, you'll be like, oh my gosh, more business came than I expected from my networking group, or from like maybe even just 2 people in your database that are really powerful referral partners. You might discover that, you've been investing a lot of money into some kind of paid advertising, and you realize, oh my gosh, very little business has come from that. And so by tracking the source of your business, it allows you, 1, to measure the results in your budget, and 2, when you're planning the year ahead, you can figure out where I'm going to get the new business from. Another thing we'll be talking about today is, finding ways of growing your business by focusing on things that fill your bucket, that fill your energy, versus things that are just stuff. So in a perfect real estate business, in my opinion, it's always your database, and then it's 3 supporting engines, so to speak. So a really solid business does not need a dozen sources of business. It needs a core 4, maybe 5, where the bulk of your business is coming from. And that is certainly something over the years that I have learned. In the first few years, I was really focused. When I started real estate, I didn't know, other than find clients and serve clients. I didn't overthink it. I wasn't doing business plans, but I was really working hard. And then eventually, once I started working on my business, I was able to see that, quite a bit of my business came from just a few core areas. And I was also able to realize that I was wasting a lot of time thinking that I was, investing it into other sources that just weren't generating business for me. Or, as we'll talk about in the future, they might be generating business for me, but they weren't things that I liked doing. They weren't things that I wanted to do, things that I wanted to maintain. They were stuff. They weren't things that, filled me and gave me energy. And so as you get longer in your business, as you get more experience, you will have an opportunity to not only pivot away from certain sources of business because they aren't as effective, but you might pivot away from an effective source because it's not your style, and you're being true to yourself, because in the long run it'll be easier to manage a business that is effective and that is generating your business from areas and methods that you actually enjoy. All right. You got to start with a vision. Without a vision, whenever there is challenges, you are going to find a reason to stop and kind of have a pity party, lick your wounds, and explain to yourself why things should be easier. So, the purpose of a vision is really simply to clarify what is most important to you in your life at that moment. A vision shows you the big picture, your goal, the end result, why you're putting in all the effort, what you're working towards. It gives you clarity and it gives you a path forward. Your vision will keep you focused, on track, and it will change over time. It's not a cemented item for perpetuity, but it is something that needs to be clear and relevant, and that you truly believe in. Otherwise, again, it won't allow you to stay on the path and stay focused. So the importance of having your own vision, really simply, if you don't write down your own vision, your own reason for working as hard as you're going to be working, is you'll find one of two results. One, you're going to be either bumping all over the place and bouncing around and having no real outcome, or you're going to start working on someone else's vision. And that can be really unrewarding later in life when you realize that, even though the successes you're achieving might not be your own, and they might not be the ones you want, but you spent a whole bunch of time working on someone else's vision. What will happen if you don't have your own plans and goals? Well, I just kind of covered that. It's not good for you. It's like driving, across North America without a map and without a purpose. You will end up somewhere, but will you actually end up where you wanted to go? No, very unlikely. So removing fears and barriers is also really key in figuring out your path forward. So what are the barriers, as we're talking right now, as you're thinking, and in the future as you're filling out this paperwork? What are the barriers that are in your way towards achieving your happiness and success? So that could be a lack of tools, money, resources, having the wrong people in your life, not having enough time with the right people in your life. It is really, really important to identify the challenges and the barriers, and it comes up a few times in my short presentation here on not only is it really important to have a motivation, a roadmap, and a purpose, but you also need to be prepared for road bumps. The same way as when you're driving a car, no one's driving a car, certainly not back in the day before there was road service, without a spare tire and the tools to change a tire. No one wants a flat tire, but you all know it's a reality when you're driving a car. And so everyone drove around with a spare tire, because sooner or later you're going to get a flat. And some days you get, an abnormal amount of flats in a certain period of time. And you in that moment have the choice of saying, hey, I'm going to address this. I know I just changed a flat last week, but I'm going to fix it again this week. Or you can sit on the side of the road, again, have a pity party and ask yourself, why are other cars driving by and none of those have a flat? And so being prepared for the barriers that are going to come up and the challenges is really important in preparing yourself and moving forward. When you're figuring out what is your vision, it doesn't have to be a complicated item. It's really simple. And it could be anything. It's something that truly makes you happy and fulfilled at different points of your life. It can be also more of a necessity. So at the stage of my life that I'm at, I'm still, I have 4 kids under 11. It is very tied to providing for them and delivering a lifestyle and a result that I'd like them to have. And then later in life, as I accomplish that, my vision will change, and that is very natural. Also, part of figuring out what your vision is what are your natural talents? Where are you naturally strong? And that's important to identify in the course of writing a business plan, because what you'll discover are you have natural strength zones where a lot of business could be generated from in order to make it easier to grow your business. So answering these questions helps kind of, identify some of that. And what you again realize is you could spend multiple times, as I discussed, working on your business sessions, just revisiting these questions, revisiting the answers, making adjustments to it all year long. And the more you do, the more clarity and momentum you will have behind your business plan. What is your big dream? What's beyond survival, beyond, providing for the near term? You need to kind of have a long-term vision and a goal. You're not, you're not, no one knows how long we're going to live on this earth, but many of us have the fortune of living a long time, and it's important to really know what the purpose and what the dream is. And so writing that down, writing down the vision of your life and what you want to create, just gives you, no regrets in the future, or minimal regrets on that you didn't waste too much time, and you got to where you wanted to go, and you're proud of the path that you took. So the vision is important. Next, you want to write down 3 goals for the year ahead that when you complete will be putting you towards making your vision a reality. So if your vision was that I want to buy, a family vacation property that, all my kids are going to come to, and it'll be willed down somehow to, the family, the generations in the future, there are a lot of things that you could do in order to get there, right? Obviously, you need the resources to finance it. You maybe need the understanding of the structure, and there's just so many goals that would need to be achieved in order to achieve that vision. And so in your case, in this case, business planning wise, what is your goal for the year ahead? What is your big audacious goal? What are your vision, and then what are 3 goals that will help you towards that? When you're writing that, you naturally, certainly for myself, I naturally think of things that are getting in the way. Like one of my challenges in my real estate business is I never have enough listing appointments or solid leads, and I can come up with reasons that cause that, things that are getting in my way. Some of those are self-created, some of those are within my control, and others aren't. And so it's sometimes really important to write down what your clarity, your breakthroughs on your own personal habits are, in order to kind of provide you the ability to reflect, almost the ability to look into a business mirror before you go too far down the path of falling back to your bad habits. And part of that is asking yourself, what are the changes that I'm committed to making in this case 2024, but it could be any year ahead. What are the commitments and the changes that I'm willing to apply to myself, and that will lead me towards achieving my goals? Your life is all about habits. If you're achieving it at the level you want, it's likely because you have clarified habits that are serving you, habits that are really, really solid, and that are generating results that are important for you. If you are not enjoying the results, if you are in a place where you're unhappy with yourself, your relationships, your fitness, your business, it's also because of habits. You have the wrong habits. And so a lot of that comes to, making changes and commitments on changing, one little thing at a time. And it's amazing how, changing one little thing can have a dramatic impact in all the different areas of your life that are important. So we'll get to that in a little bit with a 90-day tracker. Okay, so setting your goals going forward, we talked a little bit about you need to measure where you came from. Now you've got, you're telling yourself what your in business wise, what your business goal is for the year ahead. And part of that is figuring out all the different categories. So what is your income goal? What is your goal for closed transactions, for listing appointments, listings taken, listings sold? What's your goal for how many hours a week you're going to work? Because, how many days you're going to work, how many hours of prospecting you're going to do. The reason that is important is because 2 businesses with the same transactional results can look entirely different, because one person might have set a goal where, hey, I'm going to work only 4 days a week, and I'm going to lead gen, a certain number of hours every single day before I do anything else. And they might be generating the same results as someone that feels like they're working 7 days a week and all over the place. And so it's important to have your income goal, your financial numbers sorted, but you also need to figure out what are the inputs that you're willing to invest into, and that will make you feel like the return is worth it. And so it's really important to figure out not only, again, your income goal, but also the number of hours, number of days you are willing to work to achieve that. Bringing it back to your perfect business. And if you have downloaded the worksheet by now, you'll see that on one of those pages, there's 99 plus little tiny engines, circles, and it has a myriad of different ways of growing your business. Okay. I don't care who you are. I believe your first and foremost largest engine, your primary engine, needs to be your database. Not having your primary engine be your database, I kind of describe it like you're restoring an old vehicle, and you're showing it to me. You're so proud, and you just installed engine number 3, which is the nitro booster. It's a perfect brand new booster. It's going to, I don't know, increase the revs a certain amount and make you a certain amount faster. And you're telling me, oh my gosh, like this is amazing, got it at a great deal, and it's all set up, it's perfect, it's ready to go. And I'll ask you, well, is the motor starting? Is the motor working? Is your primary engine working? And you're like, no, I haven't focused any time on that yet. I'm working on, creating the windshield engine and the nitric booster engine. And you might have two engines that are working, but you don't actually have a car that's working. You don't have a business that's working because you're missing your primary engine. So for that reason, there's lots of different courses. There's lots of different education around how to grow a database and the methods to that. But your primary business needs to be your database. And then the other engines that you are focusing on in a perfect business are supporting and pushing up data and people to your database, and then your database is staying in relation, offering value, and cultivating those relationships into transactions. The myriad of different businesses that you could use for 2, 3, and 4 could be everything from door knocking, networking group, bus ads, social committees, sporting events, client events. And we'll talk a little bit more about what is just stuff and what is fills your bucket, what gives you energy. And I would suggest coming up and figuring out what are your ideal sources of business for the year ahead should come from 3 areas. A mix of what is your natural talent, where has your business come from in the past, so you're not reinventing the wheel, so you're going deeper in areas that are already successful. And number 3, what fills your bucket? Because if you're not emotionally getting rewarded as well as financially through your business, it's a really tough grind. It's going to take a lot more effort on your part to stay consistent and on course. So this is the opportunity when you're building a business plan going forward, that you don't have to, continue using or leaning into the business engines that have given you success in the past. You just have to make sure that you have engines that are working, and you're going to put the effort into it, understanding that your database, no matter how you build a business, is always your primary engine of growth. Talking a little bit about, again, figuring out what is stuff and what is energy. One of the questions I have for you that I'd like you to answer is, what inspires you? Like what gets you happy when you're talking about your business? What parts of it, you look forward to, and what parts of it is like, oh my gosh, I got to do that again, and you're not looking forward to it. And the stuff items are often the things that you write down on your task list again and again and again, and you never really accomplish them. The energy things are the ones that you might not even have to write down, because you just remember them and you naturally jump to them, or you write them down and you accomplish them because it was I like it and it had to be done. And so, for myself, for example, things in my real estate business that is kind of just stuff, like I will definitely do it because I want to have success, but it's not the things that give me energy, is tours with buyers. And some tours with buyers I love, but on average, touring with buyers for me is just stuff, doing the paperwork, deliveries, opening doors, having fluff conversations, wasting time, and working with unmotivated clients are things that definitely don't fill my bucket. I will do it if I need to, but I definitely put it into the stuff category. Things that give me energy, that I just love about my business, that motivates me to stay and to do it more often, is I love working with people who listen to me. I love negotiating. I love receiving referrals from other realtors across North America. I love working with investors and estates. I like really having boundaries with my clients. Taking breaks from my clients. So I don't drive with my clients for that reason, because I need to take a break with them between showings, and I like to have my own time in the car. And I really like working with people who respect and like me and who are motivated. I have no problem working as long as it takes. I really struggle with working with unmotivated people. The reason that's important to figure out in your business what is stuff and what is energy is you want to get more and more of your activities focused on the energy, while you're also being truthful to yourself, knowing that you're going to have to get stuff done. And depending on what stage you are in your business, you're going to have to do more stuff because you have less people to lean into. You have less leverage. As you get more successful, as you get more leverage, more people around you, more experience, you're able to focus more on the energy filling items. All right. The other thing about where your business comes from is recognizing that not all lead engines are equal. Some lead engines fall into the high money, high cost, low leverage category. Some are in the high cost, high leverage category. So that, for example, could be like, a bus ad, because it costs a lot of money to wrap a bus, but you're not driving the bus around all day showing your details of your business. Someone else is doing that. So high cost, high leverage. The other on the lower left could be low money, low leverage. So it's often something that you're doing one-on-one with someone, and it's definitely a lead engine source, but it might not generate a lot, but it doesn't cost you a lot. Then in a perfect world, it's finding something that is low in cost and high in leverage. And so often that's like a networking group, that's a core group of ambassadors and supporters around you because they love you and they want to support you, but it doesn't cost a lot of money. That's really where you'd love to get the majority of your business from, because it's very powerful, it's impactful, but it doesn't cost a lot. And so the reason I want to bring this to your attention is, especially if you're a new agent, or especially if you're relaunching, you want to be realistic with the resources you have, be it money, time, leverage, because you don't want to pick high cost, high leverage methods of generating business if you don't have the resources to back it up. It's also important to, understand, as you get more successful in your business, the resources that you have, the leverage that you can lean into. And by shifting some of your business sources into those areas, you're building a moat around your business, because other people who don't have the money, don't have the, allied resources, or don't have the staff, can't invest, can't utilize those engines as easily as you, because they're unable to. And so that's a good example where someone who already has a successful business might actually be benefiting from changing their business plan going forward, because there are other methods that, once they incorporate, protect their business and move their business exponentially further forward than if they, stayed the course with things that are working. So you want to change your lead gen system, or you want to improve it, or you want to add to it. So really what you need to do in your business plan is ask yourself, what are the items you're going to change? Perhaps it's, swapping a source of business. It's improving on a source of business, a business engine. It's perhaps going deeper. It's rejuvenating. Who knows what it is, but you need to identify it. And then you need to figure out who is going to do the work. Is it all you? Is there someone else you can bring to the table for leverage? And then tie in a completion date. When will it be done? Because otherwise, we've seen it so many times where you pick up an old notebook, you pick up, a file that you didn't look at for years, and things that you're talking about as little as, 5 months ago up to 5 years ago have been following you for that whole time, because you never really committed to getting it done. You didn't put a target date in place, and it kind of is that skeleton in the closet of ambition that you never, and goals that you never accomplished. And to that same effect, it's not only important to draw out what you're looking for, it's also figuring out, how will you stay accountable? And a lot of that I find that's really strong is if you're into coaching, if you have the resources for paid coaching, that's a really great way of staying accountable. Other things that are highly successful is finding accountability partners. It's finding ways that you have someone else that's going to know what you said you were committed to last week, and check in on you and see how you're doing. So they're not judging you, they're just performing the task that you asked them to complete, which is check in on me and hold me accountable to what I'm saying today. So accountability partners is a great way of making sure your business plan works in the year ahead. All right. A 90-day habit tracker. I don't know if you've seen this before, but what it is often, we underestimate the change that can happen in our business and in our life by simply improving one habit, changing one habit, adding one habit. And it could be in any of the categories. It could be in your personal life, in your job, in your relationship, in your business, your finances, your health. And so for me, again, this year, I really want to get back to being in ownership of working by 5 a.m. So I just recently, purchased an alarm clock that vibrates so I don't wake up my partner. And I'm a few days into establishing this 90-day tracker that I know if I get up at, sharp, slightly before 5 a.m. and I pop down to my home office and I'm working from 5 till 6:30, I feel so accomplished for that hour and a half that I get a ton of work done. And equally, I know it's changing some of the inputs, some of the bad habits the night before, because I have to get up at 4:55 a.m. And so what is a habit that if you incorporated, if you committed to yourself for the next 90 days, would change your business, would reach your goals? You might ask yourself, why is there 100 days on a 90-day tracker? The method that I follow is that if you can be successful 90 out of 100 days, doesn't matter when you fail or when you take a cheat day, you have established a new habit. If you can't get to 90 out of 100 days, you still haven't established it. You're a work in progress. Part of that is always figuring out your schedule. It's drawing out what does your day look like and what are protected times that you are going to work on your business and different, different things that are important. I'm a big believer of putting a little bit on your schedule that's protected, repeatable, and you produce, and then leaving the rest open as you can. And the way that kind of comes up for me is a lot of people will say, hey, let's book an appointment. I'll say, you know what, call me any day in the afternoon. And if I miss your phone call, I'll call you back. Partially because I hate being overly scheduled. However, my mornings are very scheduled. So I get up at, slightly before 5 a.m. I work from 5 till 6:30, 6:30 to 8:30. I'm making breakfast and with my kids. 8:30 to 9:15, I'm dropping them off at school. I'm back at my home office by 9:30, and I work from 9:30 to 11 doing relationship calls for my real estate business. Then I drive into my office, and I'm kind of there shortly before noon. And then I'm working in my business, my real estate business, my brokerage business, other businesses. And I'm really not scheduling too much because I know if a task needs to be done that's relevant, it'll get done. And my goal is to kind of, on most days, be done by, 5, 6 o'clock, unless something has to be happening in the evening. And so that is my daily schedule that has, been really successful for me. My weekly schedule, I work Sunday to Friday. I don't work on Saturdays. And so for some people as a realtor, that is confusing because like you feel like you need to work, but I haven't worked Saturdays in years. And I actually don't work until I take off, Friday at most Fridays by like 5 o'clock until Sunday at noon. And my Sunday is semi-flexible, but I never ever work a Saturday. And the reason I do that is it just protects my sanity. I will find a way to help a client with a peer partner, with a business partner. Like we'll find a way of, solving a task that they think needs to be done on a Saturday. And the reason, I've been able to achieve that is just being true to myself and drawing it out. And to be honest, there have been 1 or 2 clients over the last decade that, felt they needed me from Friday to Sunday when they were just in town for, one weekend to look at properties. And I might have passed them off to a client, or they might have, or another team member, or they might have worked with another realtor because, they felt they really needed me on Saturday. And yet I want to be, true to what's important in my weekly schedule. And that's really, really important. So my family knows that there's one day where, sure, I'll take a phone call, I'll field conversations, but I'm not driving myself to go meet with a client or do work activities. So what does your weekly schedule look like? Really, really important to establish that and figure out, what's important. And so the opportunity in your business plan going ahead is that the past does not need to repeat itself. You are, in charge of your year ahead, and you are able to change it. So draw out what your weekly schedule should look like for the year that you are building, for the results that you want to achieve. With anything that you change in your business in general, like I said, there's going to be challenges. So if you're going to make changes to your calendar, you are naturally going to create challenges that are going to get in the way of that being achieved. Instead of waiting for that challenge to pop up and then trying to mitigate it, why don't you come up with the solutions right away? So you might say, hey, I'm going to take a certain time off and in a given week or in a time block, and I know that my son has a sports club that they need to go to. Well, you could come up with, for example, a ride sharing program with some other parents where you drive their kids on a certain event in a certain day, and in turn they give you that time slot off. So everything I find is achievable when you plan it out, and if you also come up with the solutions to the challenges you already know will show themselves. All right, talking about your business plan, your year ahead. A big part of it is trying to keep as much of the money, the hard-earned money that you've created, and yet making it simple enough that you actually follow it. And so in my mind, this is a really, really, really simple budget. And yet if you actually filled it out and if you actually tracked it year after year, you're often further ahead than most people with complicated budgets in other business planning models. So really, really simple. It's be great to do one of these for the year that just happened in order for you to figure out the numbers of the previous year. And from there, based on what your goals are, based on the sources of business that you are looking to generate business from and invest into, you come up with a budget for the year ahead. A budget that covers all the different methods of revenue that you will be receiving, and then all the different expenses that you will be investing into, and identifying, which ones are fixed expenses and which ones are variable expenses, knowing that should you be struggling on reaching your goals, and you're working on your business, so you're tracking it, you're able to pull back on some of the variable expenses until your revenue increases enough that you're on track. Budgeting is often felt like this big, daunting task. And so it becomes something that most business people, in my experience, in my coaching business, ignore. A lot more of my clients, will focus time on generating more business. The challenge in this is I have literally coached people and seen people that had, let's say a government debt of 100,000 when they were making $300,000 a year, and instead of taking their budget and their financial situation to heart and serious and creating a financial plan and a budget forward, they just focused all their attention on growing their business. And they did. They grew their business, in this case, the person I'm thinking of, to almost $700,000. And you would think, more than doubling your revenue, your income, that you could have paid off the government debt, and you're further ahead. The challenge there is they actually had over a $300,000 government debt that the government was following up on because they had never gotten control of their expenses. And as their income increased, if you don't, focus on your budget and really plan it and follow it and model it, your bad habits, again, your habits that you're naturally, employing, will bite you in the butt. And so don't deflect focusing on your income and expenses to come up with a really simple budget in the year ahead. Now, the other thing that is different in my business plan is coming up with a growth plan. A lot of people, as I'm speaking right now, it's the end of January 2024. And a month ago, when the new year started, a lot of people, had created new year goals. And now, a month into the year, are they on track? And a lot of times what people are doing is they're creating new goals for the year with the same person that they are. So think of it. You have goals, and in this case, your business plan to improve, to change, to strengthen in the year ahead. And yet you're currently doing it with exactly the same person, the same habits, the same methods, the same strengths and weaknesses that delivered the year you just had. So unless the market dramatically changes or other factors, you are the same person currently with new goals. And that's kind of unrealistic to have, a new outcome with the same input. And part of solving that is really figuring out your growth plan, so in yourself personally, in your family, in your education, in your business, answer the following questions. What do you want more of? What do you want less of? What should you start doing? What do you need to stop doing? What should you invest into? And what should you go to? Meaning, like, what are some of the, coaching or seminars or events that you should go to that will help your personal life, help your family life, help your business? There's this one section called Stop Doing. It's probably the most important section. A lot of amazing growth happens from, stop doing things that aren't serving you, or stop doing things that are derailing you from what you want to achieve. So filling out your personal growth plan is a really integral part of your business plan, because it allows you to figure out, for the results that I'm looking to generate, what type of person do I need to become? In order to become that person, again, what do I need more of? What do I need less of? What do I have to start doing? What do I have to stop doing? What do I have to invest into? And where do I need to go to find the help? All right, so let's talk a little bit about a 3-to-1 year goal. I find that humans often over-evaluate what they can get done in 1 year, and often underestimate what they can get done in 5 years. And so a way of kind of addressing that is creating a 3-2-1. So draw out in your, in your personal life, in your business life, what your vision is for 3 years out. That can kind of be like, the big picture where you want to get to, but you don't quite know how to get there. And then backfill it from there. Then pop down to your 1 year vision. And really your 1 year vision, your goal for the next year should include steps that you understand how to accomplish it. You might not understand yet how to accomplish your 3 year vision, but your 1 year vision, you should already have in the back of your mind kind of the core pillars of how you're going to accomplish that. So by doing that for your personal life, doing that for your business, you are kind of creating the big stepping stones in the path forward, while still focusing on the micro items for the year ahead, while not losing focus on what you can accomplish over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Again, it's really simple for this sheet. If you fill out what your personal goals are in 3 years' time in your health, your spirit, your fun, your relationship, your passion project. For the business category, fill out where you want to be 3 years from now in your work life and freedom, your income, your job, mentoring others, maybe your wealth building, and then back build it to your current year. So you kind of know what your near-term pillars are and what your long-term goals are. And knowing that and seeing it on paper bring you that much closer to being able to achieve it. The business plan that I'm really always talking about is the previous things I just spoke about are important tool steps to reach your business plan, part of your business plan. The simplest business plan, in my opinion, is called a 1-3-5. So it's kind of like, what's your one big goal of the year ahead? What are 3, core strategies, and then the 5 or more tasks to each one of those. And so what I'm going to talk about here is, again, what's your one big picture goal? What are the 3 core priorities, and what are all the tasks or strategies underneath it? So let's make that a bit more realistic. Let's say you're a realtor. Let's say you're in your 2nd or 3rd year, and your goal is to complete 24 transactions in the year ahead. What could that look like? Well, your goal is to complete 24 transactions in the year ahead. Your priority number 1 is to double your lead gen results. Priority number 2 is to strengthen your skills and systems. Priority number 3 really has nothing to do with business, but it will impact your business, which is to get fit and healthy, to lose some weight so you're more nimble, you feel better, you feel like a rock star when you're presenting with clients, and you're strong and you have longevity and you don't get sick. Okay, so those are your 3 priorities. Now, what are the strategies or tasks under each one of those? So in your priority number 1, that will, be double your lead gen results. In this case, I used myself quickly for an example. I created a Canada-wide referral strategy. And I think part of the reason that you might be watching this is maybe you've received one of my touch points. And so one of my goals to get more lead gen in my real estate business is to be in alignment with more realtors across North America, across Canada. And part of that is to give in education, give in knowledge. So that was a strategy. Participate in my office client events. And so, for example, my office organizes large client events where we help subsidize it. And we're able to invite our clients to it, like a pie event or a pumpkin event. And by doing that at a high level, I'm interacting with my clients and getting referrals. One of my strategies is to call 10 people a day and text 5 people every day. Perhaps it could be joining a networking group or creating another strategy, like creating a relocation strategy. In this case, I know from experience that if I completed those 5 strategies, I more than likely would double my lead gen results from where they were to where they could be in the year ahead. Now, strengthening my skills and systems as another priority. I could, get an accountability scripting partner. I could recreate and strengthen and practice my buyer presentation to the highest level. I could recreate, strengthen my listing presentation. I do that for my pre-listing presentation, and I could enroll in high-level coaching. Again, if I accomplish those 5 strategies, I'm pretty sure that I would strengthen my skills and my systems in my real estate business and be a stronger version of who I am, having higher results. And priority number 3 is to get fit and healthy. if I had 20 minutes of fitness every single day, if I eat better, if I, spent more time on myself and went for a monthly massage, maybe prep my meals the night before, and I went for one fitness trainer a week, I'm sure I would lose weight, get fitter, and in turn make myself stronger and more motivated. So that is kind of like a 1-3-5 where you are designing a very, very, very simple business plan that is allowing you to focus on priorities that could be business related, and it could also be priorities that are personal or fitness or whatever it is, because in turn putting it all together will allow you to achieve your goal. Really simple here. Again, using this worksheet when you're working on your businesses, figure out what your big goal is based on what your vision and all the items we just spoke about are referencing and leading you towards. And then figure out your 3 different priorities and the different strategies underneath each priority that, when accomplished, will accomplish your priority and will lead you to your goal. Okay, the last item I want to touch on before we field any questions is the letter to yourself. If you've never done this, it's a really cool experience. So the way I like it is, again, write yourself a letter. And the question is, write it as if you met a friend at a coffee shop, or, you had time to talk for 20 minutes and he said, how was your past year? And you openly and honestly answer it. It was awesome. It was a 9 out of 10. Both in your business, your life, your fitness, your spirituality, whatever's important to you, and write down all those different areas and describe how it became a 9 out of 10. Describe how it's so awesome. And so the reason that is pretty cool to do is you write that letter, you give it away to someone else that puts it in their safe, or if you trust yourself, you just pack it away in an envelope and don't read it until the end of the year. And it's pretty cool. When you read it, you'll have accomplished many of those things. What you discover, certain things that you might have written down are no longer as important to you. Certain things that you wrote down that did come true, you realize weren't that important to you. And what it allows you to do is, one, really see the accomplishment you did, accumulate and achieve in the past year and be proud of doing that. And secondly, allows you to focus on things that were important to you a year ago and still have room for improvement and put on your goal for the following year. So the letter to yourself is a pretty neat thing to do every year, and then to reflect on. On that note, I want to thank everyone for joining me here. I'm going to stop the recording and then see if anyone has any questions.